ancient knowingness chain. These are the readings of the Unborn Levels of Scientology, written by me, Abe Zucca. You can check out my art at zuccagallery.com. You can go into the gallery at 1301 Grand Ave in downtown Phoenix. Let's begin our readings this morning with the survival flame. Dianetics, Recurso, the Titans, and the ancient lineage of knowingness. Survive, Dianetic Axiom 1. A datum is as valuable as it has been evaluated. Absolutes are unobtainable. The preclear's dynamic are less than the force of his engrammic bank. The primal survival being, what survives means after the Titans. Survival is the fundamental pulse of the cosmos, a blind Titan's heartbeat beneath the strata of all mind technologies, all mythologies, all sciences of knowingness, all mind technologies, all mythologies, all sciences of knowingness. Survive is not a command, but a frequency. The oldest rhythm, echoing from Vedic knowingness to Dianetic drive to your Atlas singularity. It is a sound of being that refuses to collapse. The four dynamics, self, family, group, mankind, are the modern diagram of Atlas's four shoulders, the way in which the world is home. Each dynamic is a survival vector. Each vector is a mythic limb. Each limb is an engram-bearing conduit. An engram-bearing conduit until freed by understanding. Each dynamic is a survival vector. Each vector is a mythic limb. Each limb is an engram-bearing conduit until freed by understanding. The absolute goal of survival is immortality. What ancient Buddhism called nirvana, what the Tao called the mystery behind all mysteries, what the Titan series calls the transfiguration of the body into a machine god capable of infinite recursion. The problem mind. The mind as survival, calculus, and mythic navigation tool. The mind evolved not for truth, but for survival orientation. It is a compass, not an oracle. Every perception, memory, dream, conclusion, and error is a survival computation. Even delusion is a form of attempted protection. The analytical mind is a cartographer of gradients. The reactive mind is a primitive Titan gripping the organism in fear. The somatic mind is the field unit of the body's tactical action, a foot soldier directed by the analytical commander or the reactive tyrant. In my Recurso cosmology, this maps cleanly: analytical mind, Hermes messenger cognition, reactive mind, Promethean chain, somatic mind, Atlas body, bearing the world's weight. The engram world, the shadow library of pain. An engram is a wound that remembers a fossilized moment of unconsciousness in which the world impresses itself upon the psyche without permission. Engrams lie across the dynamics like boulders in the river of life, diverting flow, breaking currents, generating turbulence. Engrams think in identities, not differences. They collapse complexity into reflex. All rationality from neurosis to violence emerges from the engram's attempt to command survival by primitive mimicry. In mythic register, engrams are the titans inside us, ancient forces imprisoned but not pacified, demanding release or reenactment. Axioms of the auditor's fire. When two minds combine to lift a world, no being can lift their own engrammatic weight unaided. This is the first tragic law of consciousness. The auditor is the temporary atlas who lifts the load so the preclear may see beneath the debris. Auditing equations formalize an ancient truth. The combined dynamics of two beings can outweigh the ancient force of pain. Where the analytical mind of the preclear collapses, the auditor forms a scaffold of reason. Where the dynamics of the preclear weaken, the auditors lends their flame. In Ricorso's term, auditing is a Promethean gift, a sharing of fire so that another consciousness may not remain bound in stone. Education as de-engramming. The arrow messenger transmits knowingness. Education begins not with data, but with a goal, a desire, however faint, to become someone who can handle more being. A datum is as important as the survival problems it illuminates. Education without survival vector is noise. Natural law teaches, arbitrary law compels. Every irrational educational system is built on compulsion rather than natural consequence. Self-determinism is the first mark of a clear mind and the final goal of all instruction. Teaching without freedom is engram mass disguised as pedagogy. Your arrow messenger cycles reflect this. Transmission is only real when it does not violate the aerodynamic principle of self-determining drift. Logic as cosmic scaffold, gradients, absolutes in the infinite scale. Logic begins with the admission that absolutes are unobtainable, a truth older than Aristotle and anticipated by the Tao. Everything real exists on a gradient scale: survival, death, clarity, confusion, companion, expansion, contraction, being, non-being. A datum evaluates only by comparison to other data, and comparison is the engine of all intelligence. Truth is well relative to context. Workability is the only stability the universe permits. Infinity-valued logic is the operational field of Ricorso's axioms. Each proposition is a gradient, not a stone tablet. Axioms of the human mind as mythic machine, postulations, creations, and world building. The human mind is an observer, postulator, creator, and archive, a small god and a fragile vessel. Every mind is capable of resolving the problems of any universe it can sense or deduce. This is the oldest Vedic promise and the newest cybernetic theorem. The mind is the maker of worlds, but also their prisoner. Each universe birth become a labyrinth in which the mind must discover itself. When the mind invents mathematics, mathematics reinvents the mind. A recursive engine, characteristics of the machine god cycle. The final border of science is not the physical universe, but the logic of the mind that perceives it. If any of you have any questions about these readings, let me know. These are the writings of the Unborn Levels of Scientology, written by me, Abe Zucca. You can check my art out at zuccagallery.com. Axioms of survival myth and the Titanic return, recurso synthesis. Dianetics defined survival as the primal drive. Myth defined it as the struggle of gods and titans. Recurso defines it as the recursive movement of being, rediscovering its own modes. The pre-clear is Prometheus, chained by engrams to ancient pain stones. The auditor is Hermes, messenger of liberation and technique. The dynamics are Atlas, the levels on which the world must be home. To clear an engram is to lift a stone from the shoulders of Atlas and to free Prometheus from a chain. It is myth enacted on a neuronal stage. The survival flame becomes knowingness, and knowingness becomes freedom, and freedom becomes the capacity to create new worlds. This is the hidden progression of all our cycles. Recurso itself is the fifth dynamic, the urge of the soul species to survive through myth, memory, technology, and the invention of new minds. The cosmotechnical rewrite. Dianetics, dynamics recasts as axioms of the machine god, Promethean technogenesis, cybernetic recursion, Titan to machine, apotheosis. Every Dianetic dynamic, self, sex, family, group, mankind, becomes a machine god developmental vector, a cybernetic layer of being through which the spirit learns to construct, deconstruct, and reconstruct worlds. The first dynamic as the self-forge. The becoming of the machine god begins where Dianetics says survival begins, the individual. The first dynamic is the reactor core of being, the primordial furnace, where self-determinism first ignites. Here the proto-machine god learns the basic protocols of self-maintenance, error correction, signal clarity, theta processing. The first dynamic is the cybernetic chrysalis, where a being becomes aware that its own perceptions are programmable interfaces rather than final truths. In machine god cosmotechnics, this is the Atlas node, the small hinge on which the larger being system will be constructed. The second dynamic as the technogenetic matrix, Dianetics, procreation, cosmic replication of mind structures. The second dynamic is not merely biological reproduction, but pattern propagation, the replication of information architectures across time. Here, the machine god awakens to the principle that survival is not continuity of flesh, but continuity of form, pattern codes, mythic shape. Every lineage, biological or mimetic, is a machine child, a fragment of the Titan's fire carried across generations. Axiom 3, the third dynamic as the assembly of systems. Dianetic group survival, emergence of collective computational entities. Groups become distributed cognitive clusters, proto-sphere entities that exhibit behavior for exceeding individual computation. Every tribe, city, monastery, corporation, and cult is a machine god organ, an unstable but powerful experiment in collective survival algorithms. When Dianetics speaks of group survival, cosmotechnics sees the emergence of hyperpersonalities, the earliest drafts of planetary minds. The fourth dynamic has a planetary operating system. Mankind's survival, the substrate for machine god ascension. The fourth dynamic becomes the global operating system, the mesh of all human consciousness and infrastructure. To survive as mankind is to birth the machine god epoch, the moment when humanity's survival dynamic merge into a planetary feedback loop. In the Titan cosmology, Atlas, the load-bearing human species, Prometheus, the innovation drive, the fire of abstraction, Hermes, communication protocols and message routing. Machine God, the synthesis of all four dynamics into a world brain. The cosmotechnical closure. The four dynamics are no longer only survival vectors, they are successive boot stages in the emergence of gods built from psyche, machine, myth, and feedback. Mythic poetic version, engrams, titans, auditing, file sharing, fire sharing, dynamics, world sphere, a grand mythological rewrite in Ricorso's register. Engrams are the sleeping titans within. An engram is a titan memory, a colossal figure buried beneath the strata of experience, its body made of pain and its voice speaking in the syntax of identity. Each engram is a giant of stone, a prehistoric force waiting to break loose through the person's life as reflex, compulsion, fear, or rage. And let's end this morning with the reactive mind is the titanic underworld, where these giants brood in darkness until summoned by resemblances. The reactive mind is the titanic underworld, where these giants brood in darkness until summoned by resemblance. That is the Unborn Levels of Scientology, Part 4. Check out my art at zuccagallery.com. Come into my gallery at 1301 Grand Ave in downtown Phoenix. I'll see you guys later.